crowd, so I'll try to speak up. I heard I didn't speak quite loudly enough. If I get too loud, somebody just tell me to tone it down. But welcome. I'm very impressed with all the faces and people that are here today. This is a great project that Jim and the coalition in Martin County has put forth. My name's Tom Lucido. I own a firm in town called Lucido and Associates. We're landscape architects. We're planners. We've been in town since 1982, and we have worked quite a bit in the Treasure Coast area and abroad. My associate Jane Krebs, my Vanna White today, who is a 25-year landscape architect veteran, runs our landscape architecture division in our office. She's here to help me, and she was very involved in this project. We were hired to help the coalition by Martin County. Jim and Mark Perry and a few others asked the county to bring us on board. As this project kept growing and becoming more and more complicated, they wanted to bring in a professional firm, and we were complimented by being asked to help out. We do a lot of landscape design for streetscapes, for new communities. We work with a lot of various professionals, engineers, architects, and there are some here today, they're gone now, but working with an engineering firm by the name of Culpeper and Turpinning. We're working with Eric Ferguson, who's running the project for the county, and there will be several others involved as this proceeds. But our function, our job today, and which has been really over the last year, was to begin conceptualizing what A1A, the A1A corridor through Hutchinson Island would look like. Jim had a vision, the coalition had a vision, which was, you know, we're a community. Hutchinson Island is a community of people. We'd like to welcome people as we come into Hutchinson Island, as they drive through Hutchinson Island. It'd be nice if it was a landmark, that people knew they were in a community. At this point, it doesn't really feel that way. You kind of drive down A1A, you come in one way, you go out the other way, and you don't necessarily feel like you're part of a community. So our function was to try to define through landscape, signage, lighting, and other elements, try to define the Hutchinson Island community by working with the A1A corridor. Okay, so what I'm going to show you today is some basic concepts that we've been working on. None of these ideas are finalized. Concepts are ideas. They're not final drawings. And the idea is that the coalition wanted to get input from the community, and that's why there's so many of you here today, and there was earlier too, so that's great. So the idea is to get input, and that's why you have all these stations that you can walk around, put information into the boxes, give them input. After this brief presentation, we'll be here all day, and we'll be glad to meet with you at each station and talk with you about each project that's going on. There's several different projects going on. So without further ado, I'll start my project, which is really the landscaping and median improvement and the improvements of the A1A corridor going through Hutchinson Island. Now these graphics, I hope you can see them. If you can't, we didn't realize there'd be this many people. These same graphics are along the walls, and I'll be glad to present them to you again. If you have questions afterwards, I'll try to present them to you again. But I'll try to walk you through what we've accomplished today. This first graphic is showing all of A1A, the whole corridor. And Jane, you got a little marker, so if you're up in this corner, it would be your upper left-hand corner where the red dot is. This is the touchdown area of the Stewart Causeway with the Marriott in this location. And we did the whole, we did a corridor study all the way through to Jensen Beach Causeway and beyond to the Martin County line. So our study area was from Stewart Causeway to the Jensen Beach Causeway and beyond to the Martin County line, okay? Which should be everyone here, maybe more. But in our analysis, the first thing a designer is going to do is do some analytical work. And our site analysis kind of provided us with 3 distinct areas as you drive along that corridor. And you can see them in colors here. There's an orange color, there's the blue color, and there's a green color. Those are 3 distinct areas for us visually as you drive the corridor. And what they reflected to us in general was you have 2 touchdown areas or 2 entrances. You know, the orange areas are entrances and exits to Hutchinson Island for this study area. They're very important areas. An entrance is a key element to any community. You know, when we design a new community, be it in North Palm Beach, Martin County, or working in China, the entry is the key area to the community. It sets the lifestyle of the people. It sets the comment and the concept of what's going to occur beyond that. It's kind of like your front door. You want typically a nice front door, front entry that represents what you're about to be presented within the home. Our entrances, our exits are a place where we're going to make a statement. The blue area, which is predominantly the balance, is really the urban area, the areas that have been built up. You know, the condominiums, the single-family homes. We're going to talk about the hotel site. These are urban, more developed areas of the corridor. So that's in blue. That's going to have a different, distinct look when we landscape, when we deal with that area. And then the green area, the last area, which is the smallest area on the site, is really the area that's been left alone and preserved. It's really a naturalized, kind of native area. There's no development there. It's pretty left intact. The landscape has been left intact, and it probably will continue to look like that for some time. So the analysis of the corridor showed us these 3 distinct areas. We had to do this predominantly, or partly for our own design intent, but also for the Florida Department of Transportation. We're working with them, and they want to know, or we want to tell them, quite frankly, we want to tell them what we want to do with the corridor and where we want pedestrian crossings and where we want to add sidewalks or where we want to add landscape. They need this analytical work before we can get anything achieved. So part of this document was created for the permitting process with Florida Department of Transportation. Okay, so the analysis was done. We have 3 distinct areas, and we have a budget to work with. We only have so much money. We can't do the whole project. There's not enough money in the county or in the coalition funds to do the whole project, so we had to decide what would be the first phase, what would we do first with the limited funds that we have. So we decided to create a first phase, and we thought we would create the most impact at one of the gateways, okay, where you come into the community. So we decided on looking at the Stewart Causeway touchdown area, where Jane is showing in the red, and we would elaborate on those designs and hold off on the other designs until the budget allowed us to go further. So we're going to walk you through the gateway, the Stewart touchdown area and the gateway designs, and then we're going to touch upon the Jensen Beach roundabout area because we decided to expand the first phase. There was a lot of concerns about the roundabout. Is it functioning properly? Can we enhance it? Can we help it? And landscape it and beautify it? So we included that in our first phase as well. So 2 areas, Stewart Causeway and the roundabout. Now the rest of the project is to be done as well, but in time, in phases. You can't do it all at once because of the money, but the same concepts I'm talking about on Jensen Beach. Somebody asked me this morning, well, why wouldn't we do that on Stewart? If you're going to do it on the Stewart Causeway, why wouldn't you do it on Jensen Beach? And the answer is we will. But we only have so much money to do one piece at a time. Okay, so the next graphic, or the next slide, this is our first phase, at least at this point. We decided to look at the touchdown area. You're heading east. You're coming off of the causeway. Marriott's to your right. And you're heading east off the bridge. There's the Marriott in the distance. And as you can see, when we start looking at these slides, and when you start driving this area, and paying attention to the area, it's not very welcoming, if that's the right term. It's fairly harsh, it's cold, a lot of concrete, a lot of technical information, but nothing aesthetic really jumps out at you. You've got signs, you've got some lighting, a lot of pavement, some landscaping that we want to address in a moment. Really no median landscaping. These are things we wanted to potentially approach the Florida Department of Transportation to help beautify the roadway. Let's go to the next slide, Jane. As you continue down the road in the first phase, this is the golf course as you're driving on A1A. And the right-of-way is barren. There's no landscape in the road rights of way. There's swales. The ditches are unkempt. They look pretty bad. There's no landscaping along the street or the sidewalk. These are areas, again, that we wanted to affect as we looked at the design. Go ahead, Jane. One real issue and one area of contention was this wetland that's basically being developed along the road, and trying to clean that up, trying to make that an amenity, not an eyesore. And there's ways to do that, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. But this was another area. You see the Elliott Museum in the distance. And right after the Elliott's basically where our first phase ends, right at that intersection where Publix, the Oceanographic Society, and the beach, that light occurs. That's going to be where the first phase ends. So cleaning up this area was our first task, or beautifying it as well. That's just one more shot. All right, so these graphics are going to be hard for you to see, but again, they are in the back. And I'll try to describe them best I can while I walk you through it. The inset, the small graphic in the upper right-hand corner here, your left corner, is the touchdown area of the Stewart Causeway. That's where you first come down. And there is no sign there. It's really a retention area right now. It's a low area, and there's some landscaping. There's a few coconut palms in there. And we all felt that as you came down to this touchdown point, and just before you arrive at the light, there should be a formal statement. We should make some sort of statement there with sign and landscaping to say you've arrived. You're on Hutchinson Island. And this is one spot that we thought we would create a formal planting using probably, and again, it's conceptual, but probably coconut palms we're talking about. Very simple in a turf area with a beautiful sign that says Hutchinson Island or welcome to Hutchinson Island, something that tells you you've arrived. Keeping it simple though, because there's not a lot of space there. There's not a lot of room. As you continue, Sorry, that's all right. It's okay, Vanna. As you continue past the touchdown area, again, to get you oriented, the golf course is on the bottom of the screen. This is really at the intersection of where you turn into the Marriott, right? Oh, I'm sorry, that's the MacArthur intersection, excuse me. Right, the MacArthur intersection. So just to get you oriented, MacArthur intersection moving forward. So after the touchdown area, what do you do with the roadway? There's several ideas. Unfortunately, again, we're regulated by the Department of Transportation. We can only do so much, and then they get involved. But what we knew we had to do is define the roadway. Right now, you just see across the whole expanse, there's nothing to define the roadway or create some symmetry or definitive visual points. And most roadways that you love or like typically are these roadways that are defined. A lot of people talk about the ficus trees on Old St. Lucie Boulevard, or they talk about oak trees on certain roadways. They define the roadway, they define the access point, and they also define the community. So we wanted to define the roadway with a bosque, or a row, I should say, of palms, an alley of palm trees that would work right along the sidewalk area. I think you go to the next sketch. Yeah, it's not much better, but right along the perimeter, we wanted to bring in a definitive edge so you knew where the road began and ended, where the sidewalk would be on the opposing side of that, and these trees would give shade to that. So we saw a row of coconut palms lining the roadway in this area. This brownish squiggly line behind the coconut palms are those wetlands. And we saw coming in there and regrading those wetlands. Typically there's going to be water in them. We would put coastal plants in there and native plants. And I'm going to show you an idea of how that's going to look in a minute, but it would be cleaned up. The duckweed would be gone. We try to get the water to move, and we try to make that more of an enhancement than an eyesore. We saw adding medians wherever we could, and that's not everywhere, but wherever we could. And predominantly those occur at the intersections and maybe a couple hundred feet beyond the intersections, these medians. And that will help reduce the width again of the right-of-way and help confine it, not physically confine it, but visually confine it, so it doesn't feel such a broad expanse going across. It also helps start screening some of the buildings. You know, you have some unsightly signage and buildings, and it helps soften the impact of the buildings. We can't hide them. I mean, people need to make a living, but we can soften the impact of buildings by adding this landscape. So you have a layering of landscape. Within the right-of-way, you're going to have some shrub mass and turf. Outside of the right-of-way along the sidewalks, palms. And then beyond that, fixing the swales and the drainage in these wetlands and cleaning that up. And these sections will show you better as you walk around. You'll look at these sections that we provided. It gives you a clearer image or a picture of what we're planning on doing there. So this lower picture on the lower right-hand corner shows what we've done. I don't know if anyone has been to Memorial Park recently, but we redeveloped the Memorial Park. And one of the problems they had was drainage. And this is something we did at Memorial Park where we created a bioswale. It's an environmentally sensitive swale that when water has to flow through it, there's a stone base to it, a light rock base to it, and there's a lot of indigenous plant materials that take up the water and look good there versus looking like weeds. And that's what we're trying to, what we're proposing along the, you see the swale area there, Jane? If you could highlight the swale, yeah. Those swale areas would look like those bioswales. We would like to move them around a little bit. We'd like to add potentially some Florida cap rock to add some interest. And so, you know, make those a better statement than they are now. This section above also shows the coconut palms on either side again, and in the medians we would have small trees, small flowering trees wherever possible. Try to add some color and interest to the landscape. Let's go to the next one, Jane. Some people were asking, can we improve the intersections of the roadways? And yes, you know, if the budget allows, you know, there are ways to do that. You've seen that in other new communities where they've come in and put either pavers or concrete stamped the intersections. That's a possibility. This was just one idea. Again, this is MacArthur. This is the pantry access, and this is A1A. And we would actually take these medians as well. Jane, can you show them the median areas? We would try to create landscape in those median areas as well, in the central parts of A1A. And, right. But try to enhance the central parts of A1A and landscape those. Also backdrop the intersections with landscaping and add new lighting and create some character at the intersections. The other thing that it helps and enhances is the pedestrian access, the flow across the medians. We try to give the pedestrians a place to cross with new design. This board is at the side of the room as well. This is our plant palette. And what you're going to notice with the plants is they're predominantly indigenous or native vegetation, or if not, at least salt-tolerant vegetation. The island gets a lot of salt breeze. Closer you are to the ocean, the more intense it is. But we're trying to focus on salt-tolerant, low-maintenance, indigenous species that would take less water, less infestation of bugs and other insects. and try to work with a plant palette that will be that will look good all year round versus having to be maintained heavily. As we proceeded with landscape, somebody brought up sign programming, and we started thinking about what could we do with a sign. Again, conceptually, we haven't spent a lot of time, and one of the tables here is going to ask you for your input on signage and names and logos and branding of the community. And so they thought, that, the coalition asked us what we thought. This picture shows a little white sign in the lower right-hand corner, your left. And that's what we don't want to do. I think what we want to do is, this is fairly typical, it's okay. That's fairly typical of beach access points and some of the older sign programming. What we did focus on was something a little bit larger, something like the House of Refuge observation tower. We thought most communities, especially historic communities, try to use a part of their history to explain who they are. They do it in their sign programming, or they may do it in other ways, but the only real piece of history we have out here is this observation tower at the building here that I'm showing. So the sign program, we started thinking should be, because of the distances when you're driving down A1A, because of the long sight distances and the width of the road, we wanted to create something fairly large. The coalition was asking, maybe we could do something with waterfalls, or maybe we could do something with rock. And we thought that that's very high maintenance. It's very difficult to work with those elements. So we wanted to work with a structure. We wanted to work with the observation platform here. Let's go to the next one. It's at the House of Refuge. These were a couple ideas. These were 4 ideas of potential signs. This is the one you just saw, the one that shows the observation tower, and potentially putting a sign, incorporating a sign with it. It's the size of a 2-story building. It's not a small sign. It would be set off the road, and it would be seen from quite a distance. The other sign in the upper left-hand corner here shows kind of a replica of that, but a smaller scale sign that might be used closer to the road by the touchdown areas. And then there was a few other sign ideas that kind of got away from the House of Refuge look. Okay, the A1A roundabout. This is at the Jensen Beach. This is the Jensen Beach roundabout. And here, and how the roundabout is being utilized. And he's created this new design for the roundabout. And we've also, from a minor standpoint, we've also landscaped the roundabout, and we're adding landscape elements to the roundabout and to the median, etc. But before I get into that, you can see in this graphic, the roundabout has these brown lines going through it, and those are pedestrian. That's pedestrian movement. All these brown areas are pedestrian movement to get from one side of the roundabout to another, which can be confusing at times with roundabouts. He also looked at adding a stacking lane on the north side of the roundabout. This is just for people that, so you understand the roundabout, or this is A1A going north-south. And we're at the the Jensen Beach Causeway in the Jensen Beach area. But he added a turning movement and a stacking lane so that more cars would actually hold up in this area and travel through this lane. That's my understanding. I'm explaining his design. And by doing that, it frees up the movement going around the roundabout heading south. And he's also, he looked at, I know there's some ideas floating around where we would add the same kind of turning movement at the roundabout on the west side of the roundabout. But when he looked at that, he felt that would create more accidents than it would be helpful. In other words, if people had to stack when you're coming onto the island was stacking here and waiting to get into traffic, they'd have to look behind them to get into traffic. You'd be looking over your left shoulder to make this movement because you have to get beyond this point, and you'd be looking back to the north to access the roadway. So there was a lot of discussion about that, and this is one of Michael's concepts. It's not complete. We're going to obviously get your input on this as well, but this is one of the ideas for the roundabout, and I know Eric with Martin County has been very involved with Michael, and he can probably address the questions better than I can with respect to the roundabout. What else, Jane? Is that all? Oh, there are some questions about Hutchinson Island, the hotel. The roadway where they're talking about adding meeting rooms and small conference rooms, a pool area, and some additional parking. But the hotel is basically going to be what you see out there and then growing toward the road. New face on it, a new look. And these boards are actually a little old to be showing you because they've changed architects, so the design's going to change. These aren't final designs, okay? But I'll be willing to walk you through these later. But the design continues to change. We have a new architect involved. They are going through the permitting process. They have the first step of the permitting process complete. They're going to finalize the permitting. It'll be probably in the fall of this year. It takes almost 9 months to finalize the permit. So my assumption at this point is that they'll start construction late this year, early next year. And they're going to renovate the building, add parking, pool area, and on the opposite side of the street they're adding overflow parking as well. They're going to have underground parking at the hotel as well, subsurface parking to add parking to both sides of the site. They also are speaking of, as we've been talking about pedestrian crossings, they realize the need, and the coalition has been asking, about doing a pedestrian crossing study, which we're in the midst of. But one of the crossings will occur at the hotel because of the parking on the opposite side, as well as the condominiums nearby that would like to utilize the hotel or the restaurant. So there'll be a crossing. We're trying to add medians. Wherever we have a crossing, we try to put people into a safe area. In the middle of the road, there's a median, which would be landscaped and serve as a crossing safety area. I think that's all I have, Jim.